This is Educated Artistry. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Educated Artistry. Today, we are joined by two of my favorite people in the lash industry, Carlee and Kayla from Lash Reality. Carlee is the founder of Lash Reality, and it started as a lash extension supply brand for pre-mades and has evolved into high-end but super cute packaging that all lash artists need, including tweezers, adhesives, hand-making trays, pre-made trays, and much more. And Kayla is the creative director for Lash Reality since September of 2022. With her background in graphic design and photography for 15 years, with additional experience in starting a lash supply brand and being a lash artist for 5 years, they soon joined forces into building Lash Reality into what you see today. So welcome to this week's episode, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us, Kayla.
I'm really excited to have you guys here today and chat with you because we're going to be learning about a new lash service that is entering the industry. So right here, right now is the first time I've ever heard this service being talked about. And I know that this service is projected to be charged at $500 per set. And once the artist is certified, it's only going to take them 30 minutes to complete. Now, I know this service may not be for everyone, so that's why I'm really excited to talk to you guys about it. And I encourage all the listeners to keep an open mind, but I'm honored to have Carlee and Kayla come on and talk about this innovative service that's going to change the lash industry forever, really. So do you guys want to jump right in on what this service is all about?
Yeah, I mean, basically, brown eyes need love too. That's all I'm going to say. Women all around the world are, self-conscious of their buttholes. They now your brown eye can be beautiful. It's actually eyelash extensions on your butthole. I don't know what to call it. The industry hasn't heard of this yet, so we really still need to come out with a new name. But
yeah, I think if anybody has any suggestions for what to call this service, because that might be a little, people might not like to put butthole in their service menu. So anybody listening, if you have a suggestion, please send it their way, because it's definitely going to be a very sought out service, I think. We've heard of the bedazzled, vajazzles, but it's butthole extensions.
you can make your butthole look like a beautiful eye, and you won't be embarrassed, if your butthole is being seen by anybody or
Make it look really big.
I can't.
Okay, obviously the episode is not today. We're not talking about buttholes, but we just wanted to get you guys a little hyped up for this episode and prank you a little bit.
Yeah, we hope you really enjoyed that idea.
I just was dying because when I asked Carlee and Kayla what they wanted to talk about, I'm sure it was Carlee that was like, "I'm down to talk about anything. I love buttholes and pre-mades," and I'm like, that'd actually be really funny.
Anything to spice it up,
Spice it up. Spice up your life, right?
Spice up your butthole, all right?
So sorry to disappoint anybody that was actually getting excited about this, new service that was going to cost $500 in 30 minutes.
I mean, if you're already getting a colonoscopy and bleaching, you might as well add on lash extensions on top of that.
Yes, add them on.
Yeah, no, you won't have to wax anymore. You just run with it,
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with body hair.
You can do nothing. You can do colored. You can do put a little peak of color down there. You can put some glitter down there.
They also are great for hiding any unwanted.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
That would be like a mega volume.
You're creating a curtain.
I am dead because Maureen is back here working and she can hear me just saying this, and I'm like really kind of embarrassed about it. I didn't think she would be here yet when we talked about this, and so, she's probably
She's
a
like,
little scared.
what are we gonna start selling
She's like, I quit. I'm out of
here?
here.
Oh my gosh. All right, that was good. I got an ab workout now. My abs hurt from laughing. Okay. So, the actual episode today, we're going to be talking about pre-made fan retention tips because I love using pre-mades, but anytime people see me using pre-mades, especially when I'm live, I constantly get asked like, I hear they get bad retention. And I'm like, no. So, we're going to be talking about retention tips of pre-mades and the innovation of products and never getting too comfortable selling the same easy thing. So, let's actually start with how has the journey been so far since you guys have joined forces?
It's been pretty amazing because in the ways that Carlee was struggling with keeping up with like a million things in her business, doing it by herself, I think, at the time when I joined her, she was keeping up with all of her social media. She was doing everything on the website. She was doing basically everything besides what she hired Maureen to do, which was to help her fulfill orders, day in and day out. And Carlee still comes in and fulfills sometimes too. So for me coming in and taking off all of that from her plate so that she could breathe a little and then, enjoy her life a little bit more versus like working 24 hours a day, it's been such a symbiotic relationship because this is my dream job. Like, I have the most fun every single day being able to do whatever I want creatively. And she leaves it up to me like, hey, if you want to work on this, if you want to do this, like, here's what we've got to do. She hands me projects and stuff that are happening. And then, if I ever need something from Carlee, like, we're there for each other on our bad days. Sometimes I might be having a mental health day and she's having a mental health day or whatever, but we complement each other in the best ways possible. And it also helps, like, when you get along with someone so well. We've turned into basically sisters, like, I think that's our closeness level, except I still haven't farted in front of her, but she farts in front of me all the time. It takes me a long time to get that comfortable.
I actually have a couple video clips of her here last time, and I kept videoing her, and then I would like, I'm embarrassed. I'm just so gross. I would like rip a big fart, and I would video her reaction. I'm immature.
No, it's fine.
You know what though?
I think you should make that into a TikTok, like, compilation of videos
That was my
that you
plan.
like.
But at the same time, like, we're trying to have people take Lash Reality a bit more serious. Having a product line is not for the weak. It's a lot of work. It's really hard. And having Kayla and Maureen have made this my dream job. Having people that I can rely on and help me do things while I work on other things. Like, things are just so great right now. And I'm just really happy with Lash Reality.
Yeah, and I think that's really important too with just a reminder for everybody because all of us start and then we're like, "Oh, we have to wear all the hats and do all the things." And how important it is to really delegate out certain things so you can focus on like what you actually love and what you're passionate about in your business because then I think that's when everything really thrives in general.
Totally. Like you said, somebody is, editing your podcast now. Like, that's huge,
Oh
right?
yeah, it takes hours to edit. Kayla, I'm sure you know because you were recording some episodes and stuff. Like it takes so long. It's so tedious and that's such a great thing to like take off my back and it makes me want to like record episodes more because I would record, even a 45-minute episode, but it could take 3 to 4 hours to edit that episode. So it's huge.
Yeah, whenever we record an hour and a half episode, it'll take me anywhere from 8 to 12 hours to edit just to be detailed and like make it sound amazing. And I I don't want to put out crap, so you have to sit down and edit a long time. But yeah, outsourcing that process to somebody else just makes it so much easier on your life. And that's what we've been able to do together is like, she has given me all of the design, all of the website, pretty much launches, overseeing anything that is marketing. And that's how we have come together. And it works really well for us because those are what I'm really good at. And whenever I was leaving VOD Lashes behind and like making that decision to stop selling product, to stop, with the salon and all of that, I was ready to walk away from it, not because I was getting with her. It was actually my decision was before that. I decided, that I wanted to focus on design and, take clients or just take different jobs and stuff. But it just so happened that Carlee, once I had done her website for her, that she wanted me like all the time. She was like, no, I want you to myself. That was her words. I want you all to myself. And I was like, okay, let's try this out. And at first, it's kind of hard to make that decision because I've used Lash Reality products in the past, but I wasn't necessarily married to them. And I'm very much a black and white person when it comes to design, but her brand is all the colors and all the fun things. And, so it posed as a challenge for me. But once I took the challenge head on and was able to start working with her, I realized very quickly that no, this is the perfect outlet for your creativity, Kayla. Like this is what you need in your life. And it's been amazing ever since. I probably cry once a week thinking about how amazing like it is for me to wake up every day and do this. And yeah, I'm dead serious. Like that's how meaningful it is to me that I get to do this. And I almost feel bad saying it out loud because I've been in that position before where I was like the struggling artist or the lash artist who was getting burnt out and like, what the heck do I do now? Like, where do I go? But going back to my roots of design was like the best decision I ever made. And being able to work with Carlee is like the most magical thing on the planet. And I feel like I could die happy.
I think that that's really cool too, that it's another path that you can take that's not something that a lot of people do, right? Like leaving your business behind and going back to your roots, but then working with another brand and stuff. That I think it's just cool that there are so many different roads you can take in this industry, and they don't always have to be the ones that everyone else is doing, where it's like being a trainer or building a lash brand or having a studio with a bunch of employees. Like there are unlimited possibilities.
Totally. I think my favorite thing about me and Kayla coming together is that as lash artists, I think, and as brands, we were just complete opposite, different. And I feel like every day, like she's teaching me to basically be able to do all those things that she enjoyed about lash extensions and learning how to be a Russian lash artist and hand making and all these things. And then I'm here teaching her about pre-mades and how amazing they can be. So it's like we came together and now we're just like, all the things are wonderful.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's what I think makes the bond so special because we both bring totally different ideas to the table. And what I'm not good at, Carlee's good at. And what Carlee's not good at, like I'm there for a solution or whatever. Like it meshes so well.
So I know Lash Reality, how I was introduced to Lash Reality years ago was you were mainly known for pre-made fans. And I do know you were one of the first brands to come out that was really like talking and advocating for pre-made fans when the rest of the industry was completely shitting on them. So first of all, like I'm proud of you for sticking with it even through the, all the shit talk on pre-made fans, which is still kind of there, but I feel like it's getting better. But one of the biggest misconceptions of pre-made fans are that the retention isn't as good. So, do you want to start, Carlee, by a couple tips on retention with pre-made fans?
I mean, I think it's valid when people say retention isn't good because if you've never used a pre-made fan and you go and use it and then you use it the same way that you do a handmade fan, you're going to have bad retention because it's a different product, it's a different technique, like it's just different. So you definitely need to not just try pre-made fans once and then can it. Like it's something that you have to keep on doing. You have to keep working. You do need to use a little bit extra glue. And Kayla actually invented, in a way, I don't know if that's the right word, like such a good technique to get better retention with pre-made fans. So why don't you tell them about that?
Yeah, so I think one of the most common issues that people are running into and just don't realize it, like you have to look at yourself in the most scrutinous way when you are applying any kind of artwork. And when it comes to pre-made fans, something that I was noticing whenever, me starting to work with it in general, was that your base was tending to lift on the end when the client was coming back. And you see that a lot. You're like, why is that base lifted when I know that I put the whole thing in glue? And what not a lot of people realize is that with pre-mades, because they're already pre ever so slightly dipped in glue or whatever to be bonded together, when you dip it in glue, you're going to have surface tension and you're going to have movement of your glue in areas where there's like the most stability. And so what happens is if you take that fan, I'm trying to find something to like give you an example, but when you take that fan and you dip it in glue the first time, immediately what's going to happen is that glue is going to rush down into the middle where it's basically like your little scoop is instead of your base. Like if this is my base and this is like the middle of the fan, that glue is going to go down here and there's not going to be much of it here. And especially if you're using the same amount of glue that you were using before, it doesn't work. So a lot of people get scared of using more glue when in actuality, you don't have to cover that thing in glue until the high heavens. All you need is just the base to have just a touch more glue than what you're used to, just ever so slightly. So I always recommend the double dip technique because you're double dipping the very end of the base back into the glue and scooping it back up so that you do have a little tiny, I hate to say this word, but like a little glob at the very end. Glob sounds like it's a lot, but it's just a teeny tiny little extra amount on the end. And then when you go to place your extension, you have to think like back in the day when we were taught, classic lashes, we were taught to have the three little dollops on the extension and then you rub it into the natural lash. We're kind of doing that with the pre-made extension because now we can focus our attachment on the base versus focusing it on the middle section because the middle section will attach. There's already glue there. But you need to be able to work with and have time to work with the base of it. I don't know if that makes sense, but I did post a video on Instagram. So if you needed to check that out, that is something that you can implement and try. And also trying out a slower drying glue is extremely important when you're working with pre-mades because a lot of times if you're already really, really fast with handmaids and you switch over to pre-mades, sometimes those pre-mades are just going to dry way too fast in your glue and you need time to work with it. Your threshold of time is going to be different when you switch to pre-mades. And whether that's because of that surface tension and the movement of the glue, whatever it is, you have to spend more time perfecting and tweaking the pre-made onto the natural lash. So, and I'm not talking like a 3-4 second drying glue. I'm talking like instead of using a half second drying time, maybe switch over to a 1 to 2 second because that's just that small amount of time that you need. And that's why we have several different glues in our line. We have a fast drying clear, we have a fast drying black glue, but we also have a little bit slower drying black glue as well, so that it just gives you that little extra time.
Yeah, that's really true because I actually do remember when I started using pre-mades, I was having that issue with the bases lifting when people would come back. I'm like, how is that happening? So the way you described it is actually perfect because I think a lot of people have that issue. So you usually just have them dip in the adhesive and they kind of dip again just at the base.
Yeah, your first dip should be 2 to 3 millimeters into the glue with anything that you use, whether that's classic, volume, whatever, unless you're doing like locking or wrapping techniques. But if you used crystallized, if you use classic or pre-mades, 2 to 3 millimeters into your initial glue dip is your starting point. And then with your pre-mades, just dip back in 1 millimeter into the glue to give you that little tiny little dot at the end. So then you can go in and focus on attaching the very, very base first and then laying it down. And that will help a lot.
That's great. I'm gonna definitely have to link that video. If you say you have a video example, we'll link it in the show notes. That way people can go check it out and see, because I know a lot of people will want to see that visually, how it looks. So are there any new like advancements or trends in the pre-made fans that you foresee coming?
Who knows? I mean, I'm not a good predictor of trends, but I think that as soon as there's one or two manufacturers that works with someone, like us, for example, like as soon as they start working with someone to perfect the ideal fan, then every other manufacturer starts to follow that. Everybody will eventually catch up. Some of the manufacturers, it might be a slower process, but a lot of times it takes one or two manufacturers to start, like, oh, here's the new standard of quality. And then everybody else will be like, oh, well, they're selling, so let's change our fans. And I recently found out that there's over 3,000 lash manufacturers, lash extension manufacturers in China alone. And I can't remember the number in Vietnam. I can't remember if it was like 1,000 or whatever, but there's a lot because East Asia is so centralized in manufacturing in general and factories. But who would have thought there was like that many lash places? But yeah, no, it as far as trends go, like all it takes is one really, really good quality manufacturer, and then the rest will follow. And then it becomes more accessible to everybody. And another thing that I found out is in a lot of places all over the world, when it comes to these manufacturers, they're usually only selling to big companies other than the United States. The United States is what they call all inclusive because they sell to smaller individuals and they sell to companies as well. So they're not just selling to big companies. And so that's why our companies in the US tend to stay small, is because everybody, every lash artist, every person who messages these people can have access to getting trays at a cheap rate. So that's, I hope that makes sense. So
Yeah, no, it totally does. And 3,000, that makes sense why there's so many damn manufacturers in the DMs all the time. There's 3,000 of them. I'm like, "Jeez."
yeah, just in China alone there's 3,000, yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think with Carlee and I, we struggle sometimes with, I mean, I know Carlee more than me, but you know, every other month you're getting in new samples of things and new qualities, and just figuring out like, well, I already have this, like, look at her stock room. Like, you already have all this stock of stuff that you're trying to sell. Okay, well, now you're telling me that you guys have upgraded the fiber. How am I supposed to sell this? Like, how am I supposed to get rid of what I already have? So then you're struggling with, okay, now we do want to switch over. Maybe in the future we do want to upgrade our fiber, whatever. If anybody is trying to transition your product into the newest thing or the newest quality, it's always going to be hard no matter what. And everybody goes through this. But I don't know how to answer the trend question. Sorry. You can cut that.
Oh, no, I think you answered it perfectly. And I do think too, like how you're explaining about manufacturers and like when one's doing it really good, then they're gonna all follow. I think we've already kind of seen that happening with pre-made fans, like just with the bases alone, having the options of like narrow, wide fans, and then all the different diameters as well, which is really cool. And yeah, I agree. They're getting closer and closer to handmade fans, which is really freaking cool too for the artist.
Yeah. No, it's a good thing.
Yeah. So, and I think the next thing, and this kind of brings us into our topic with like being innovation of products, right? Things are constantly changing, trends are happening, of course, manufacturers are getting better. So, what is your guys' process? And Carlee, if you want to start this one, what is your process when it comes to the innovation of new products and deciding like what should we bring on, especially if it's something that the industry as a whole hasn't really seen before and you're one of like the first?
I'm just constantly asking our manufacturers if there's anything new coming out, if they have anything new, because I just want to try everything. So a lot of times I'll just try these products, and if I love them, then I'm like, well, this is awesome. Why don't we, that's like the only way that I kind of innovate new products.
That is one way. I think also what Carlee also does whenever she's working on what's new, what's coming, like what can we do to improve, is the only way for you to improve products with a manufacturer is to just literally ask them, can you please do this? Can you attempt to do this? What can we change about the stickiness problem? Or what can we change about these fans that are falling apart? unless you speak up and say something, then they won't ever change it. So that's half of the dilemma, is just being able to ask them. And there's also the aspect of, how do we come out with products that are totally unique and never seen before? Well, it usually stems from an idea. And what I'm specifically talking about is like, what about acrylic organization? What about the new tweezer shapes? What about the different tweezer case shapes and everything along those lines? Everything starts with an idea or a problem, and then looking for a solution, or a cuter version or a better version, or something that's more ergonomic for people. I mean, if you don't have that idea to begin with, then how can you create something? So all it always starts with me anyways. Like in my old brand, I had came out with this little storage unit that had like 4 sections to the acrylic, and each had its own individual lid, because I couldn't find any organizers that had individual lids. I wanted everything like that, but they always came in one lid. So I found an acrylic manufacturer. I drew them a picture of what I wanted, and they made it for me, and I sold it. It was exactly, that's the process that you have to undergo when you're coming out with new things. And I know that I can speak for Dana, because Dana DeMarco of the Lash Ritual went through something similar. Was she was wanting to create iPads that were colorful and unique, but what she discovered is you can't just buy any old normal iPad. She had to go through the route of finding a manufacturer that sold and created custom medical grade silicone pads, and then the color would stick and stay. So if there is a problem that you arrive to, then there is always a solution. And you have to go out of your way to figure out how to solve that problem. For us, this goes to like our latest launch that we just did. I didn't want to just put out any old boring tweezer case, but I knew that we needed a tweezer case. So I just randomly took 5 minutes and drew out a cute design, where it was like I drew a 3D kind of mock-up on my iPad, and I drew the case to look like it had like a flower on the side of it. And it was so simple. It was such a simple little detail that when we went to the manufacturer and said, "Look, I know that you don't really do this, but can you please attempt to make this?" And they were like, "Oh, okay, well, we'll try. We'll see what we can do. We might not be able to do it." So you don't know the limitations until you ask. But that's what I recommend with anybody that is trying to innovate products is, or if you have any kind of idea. I don't think that Cosmo Glow, for example, would be where it is if Mary did not take that step. If she did not draw out her idea on a napkin and find a manufacturer to be like, "Hey, is this something that we can do?" She wouldn't be where she is today. And so, you have to put those ideas on paper. It starts with the brain chemicals in your head, neurons firing, and then it is manifested into physical reality. And that's what's so cool about your ideas.
That's true. You get an idea, and then if it doesn't exist, you have to create it.
That's what's cool about having two people versus one in your brand, is you can bounce ideas off of each other. And so we are on that, wavelength of, okay, anything is possible. I tell this to Carly all the time. Literally anything is possible. If you can think it, we can make it. And there are so many things that we look at as far as like, what are some problems that you see when you're working? Like when you're working on a client, what are some little itty bitty tiny inconveniences that you're facing, and what is something that might help you? And so we're looking into different products and stuff that we can eventually come out with that will literally change the way that someone, works and helps them. So that's what we want to do as a team, is we do want to advocate for the innovation of products constantly. And because, the lash industry is such a baby, there's so much room for everybody. There's anybody can do this.
Yeah, I think that's a important thing to take away too. Is a lot of us will think like, oh, it's only me that has this problem, and when in reality, a lot of people are probably facing that same little problem that you have, that innovating a new product could solve for a lot of people. And I think that does set brands aside when you are, not just like white labeling product with getting stuff and putting your brand name on it, to where you're like truly part of the process and being innovative and being like talking to your manufacturer. So I think that's really cool. And I think that's a good reminder for anybody that is either already in like the product space or wanting to be, and you think that it's something you want to dive into, to have conversations with the manufacturers and freaking draw out your ideas and see what they can do. That's great advice.
Hmm. And I think that like there's lash artists too that have these ideas and have these things, but maybe don't necessarily want to have a product line. Like you could always go reach out to a company and tell them like, "Hey, I have some great ideas." Because I have this girl, she's one of my favorite blush artist ever. Her name's Kayla, and she's so cute. She used to send me little things all the time. She's like, "We need something like this, but with this." And I'm like, "Okay," because my brain just isn't there anymore because I'm not doing clients all the time. But I think that's another opportunity for people too, is to work with a brand or, you know, give them ideas or,
Thank you. Yes, thank you for mentioning that. Yes.
yeah.
Because, yeah, that's such an important thing is like you don't have to be the one to go out and like start patenting and inventing all these new things if you don't want to. If you would rather get with a company and collaborate on something, then there are ways to do that and still protect yourself and protect your invention or even whatever product it is. It doesn't even have to be an invention, but I have to shout out Lux Lash Society as well because she was collaborating with people on tweezer models and tweezer designs. And in doing that, I know that she was super successful because she was working with influencers or influencer marketing. And so those things are really cool. She was doing pre-orders. And I think that's just one vehicle of producing or collaborating with a business. And if you don't feel like you have the capital or you don't have the means to do it, seek out a brand that you align with and that you love and see if they might want to bring on a product that you suggest because you never know unless you ask.
When you do that, make sure you're not just splurting out your idea to a brand because you want to be talking to a brand that, you know, is going to want to support you and maybe you can make money off of it too and not just steal your idea because I've seen that happen actually multiple times.
That's a very important point to make too, for sure, is yeah, finding somebody that you trust. And just like how we were talking before we started recording, I gave you guys a little idea of kind of like some collaboration stuff. And, I think that that's something really important in the industry, and influencer marketing and all of that is something that I hope to see the lash industry grow more into, because I feel like all these other industries are utilizing it in a really cool collaborative way that only is going to help grow and elevate the lash community as a whole. But I also want to say, I think it's really cool that you guys are pulling ideas from people that are still in the treatment room and like doing lashes when you guys aren't, doing them day to day, because then you miss out on what little things could be a new problem for the artist.
I know. It's like things are coming up and happening every single day in the lash world. So if we're not actually doing it, you kind of start to lose sight of that.
Yeah, and I just did my mom's lashes yesterday for Mother's Day, and as I was lashing her, I literally had like 6 ideas for things I wanted to film and like content and stuff. And I was like, "Oh my god, I normally don't get this much rush of creativity or ideas until I'm physically doing lashes on someone." But it was so hard because I already was in a rush to like get her done. I was like, "Oh, I can't sit here and do content." But it gives you ideas to create when you are actually physically doing the service. So never be afraid to like still take clients if you're still like doing what we do. You have to take them sometimes or feed off of the ideas of other people around you.
Yeah, no, that's something like I recently went down to only taking clients 2 days a week, and I would love to just only do like model sets, like a day a week or something like that, like strictly just to film content, to just still do lashes and still be like in the artistry side of things. Because I feel the same where like when I'm doing lashes and stuff, I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Or I want to try this mapping. And I'm like, oh, I just want to just have creative freedom, because you have your clients where they're just like, they like what they like, and you do the same thing. And I think for me, that's always something where I'm like, I think I'll always kind of keep my foot in lashes a little bit because I love the creation, like the content creation side of it.
I know. I think that's important. I still do my mom and Maureen and then one of my friends. So I feel like when I step out completely, I just like, I don't know, something's missing. Like you gotta do it a little bit.
So, you guys, I want to talk about your new tweezer collection. We mentioned it a little bit. It's the Bloomberry tweezer collection, and it includes 2 isolation, 4 volume, and 1 pre-made tweezer. And then what's really cool that I have not really seen before, well, Kayla, I know with VOD you had different sweet spot options, which was really cool and that I never saw before either. But you guys also have the customized pickup option where you can choose between a classic pre-made, light volume, mega volume, or fiber tips. And why was this important for you guys to offer the different pickup options within your new tweezer collection?
So we decided on the different categories based on basically their performance and what are you normally working with. So whenever I initially was testing out tweezers a few years ago and doing it with VOD stuff, to me, I did find a problem with how normally tweezers are being sold. And, I was that person that like kept wasting money on just 10 tweezers here, 5 tweezers there, trying to find one that worked with me and my pickup method. And I am a fan and grab type of person, or like the Russian, like you pull it up slightly and then you just fan it to the side. That's my method with most everything. And for a long time, I was doing that with .03s as well, not just .07. And so I kept buying tweezers and they weren't really working for that. And it was just really frustrating. So when I came out with my first tweezers, I was like, I'm just going to bust out the gate and do something that I've never seen before. And I'm going to make sure that people can buy these based off of where on the boot they are being picked up. Now, with doing that and then switching over now being with Carlee, we are also using that manufacturer in our tools and all of our products now. We've switched, but we're only doing that because we wanted to find the absolute best manufacturer on the planet, like that we possibly could find. This is years of cultivation and curation of who do we use. And for me, I suggested this manufacturer because I was like, I've never felt a nicer handmade tool. I've used so many different manufacturers, but there's something about this one, and I know the attention to detail. And so when we brought over the tweezers and came out with our own line and culled these really beautiful models, we wanted to utilize some of those things in Lash Reality as well. And so what we do now is instead of getting a tweezer like with, choosing your sweet spot and stuff, because that what happens if you have so many variations, I think that would make us have 6 variations if we did that way. But now we have 4 variations. And so if a customer is to buy a tweezer, it's most likely that that tweezer is going to work for you. Like 9 out of 10, that tweezer is going to work for you. Because they're hand tested. And we hand test every single tweezer that comes through. The fiber tips are literally so magical because they work with everything. But then if you're not a fan of fiber tips, because I personally don't care for fiber tips necessarily, I prefer the traditional non-fiber. But now you can choose between the light and mega. The light volume is usually 0.06 to 0.07. Your mega volume is going to be 0.03 and up. Anything larger than that, it picks up everything. So these tweezers are categorized in a way that you can pick out what's going to work best for you. And I'm always the person that is like, if you have an issue with the tweezer, you can always tell us and we'll switch it out. Like, it's really no big deal. And then lastly, if we're testing tweezers and it doesn't pick up light volume really well, it doesn't pick up mega, then a tweezer that is technically not going to work for that, you can still use it as a pre-made or a classic because it doesn't require resistance to pick up a classic or a pre-made. And another thing that I wanted to just quickly talk about is the way that we test these tweezers is not just a traditional, random method of fanning or whatever. We only use the method of maximum resistance. So when you pull off fiber, there is resistance from the strip because it is placed on that strip down hard and you can't just peel it up with any old tweezer. You have to have something that has enough grip. So what we do is test with the most resistance, which is the fan and grab method. If you peel off your fiber from the strip, place it back down, you've already erased all of your resistance. Now there is no resistance. So people that test the tweezers like that, I'm not shaming them, but a lot of brands do this method. They will test it with the pulling up, putting it back down, fanning it. I guess it's like the lonely fan. And that's to me, this is my opinion, that is not an adequate way of testing a tweezer's grip or its strength, because if that works with a lonely fan method, if the tweezer works for that, it might not work for the fan and grab because the fan and grab is still on the strip. Does that make sense?
When you taught me that, I was like, wow, because that's not how I tested our tweezers before. And I was like pretty proud of our original tweezer collection. Like, I thought it was pretty good and great. And I remember when Kayla first started with her, I sent her the whole collection and everything. And I remember like watching it to see when she received it. And I was like, just like waiting for her to tell me how great they were and how awesome they were. And I remember not hearing from her that day. And I was kind of like, what the fuck? Maybe she didn't open it, whatever. And I remember reaching out to her and I'm like, so like, how did you like the tweezers? And she was like, I mean, she was being nice, but I could tell that she didn't like them. And I was like, what the? And so then I was pretty self-conscious about them. Not that they're bad tweezers, because, people love them, they buy them up. But this new collection is just like next level. Like, I feel like I'm dreaming that these are our tweezers. Like, they're so good. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on the difference between the old ones and the new ones, because the old ones I would just hand test on a sticky dot, not really super in depth, because I didn't really know what that meant. I just was like, oh, everyone's hand testing their tweezers, so I'm going to hand test mine. But Kayla created this whole new way of testing tweezers so that they're perfect.
Yeah, it's just, I think it really comes down to a person's standard of quality, or like just the threshold that something has to be met at. And the way that I was fanning and the way that I was picking up and all of that before, I mean, I still do, but just nothing had made sense. Like, I wasn't finding tweezers that were like working for me. So when I found this manufacturer, it was just like, holy shit, this is next level. Like, this is the best of the best of the best, like, that you can get. I've never seen anything like this. And that was just the quality for me, that was my standard. And I don't think that, Carlee's tweezers were bad at all. Like, and they still aren't. Like, they're very good usable tweezers. The difference is that between the new collection and the old collection is you have ever so slightly lighter tension, where you're not having to press so hard on your fingers. And let me tell you, you can tell a difference once you start using the new tweezers. You can tell a huge difference. And in addition to that, we're using the category system, and the tweezers, I mean, if you haven't seen them before, they are like color shifting satin finish. Let me see if I have one here. If you're on YouTube, you can see this, but like, they have a color shift. They almost look bronzy purple, and then they'll shift to like a pinky blue, and it is just the coolest thing. But that's not the coolest thing. It's actually like, it's just a bonus. But yeah, we're really proud of coming together, and I highly recommend that if you want to try them, just try out one tweezer. You don't have to get the collection, but try them out and see for yourself the difference, because moving forward with Lash Reality, our goal is to only have the best quality possible. That is like our mantra, is like, we're going to have the best of the best quality. We're not going to settle for less than that. And we want to also give customers the opportunity to get stuff like that that's at an affordable option. Although there is this whole array of different things that you can get on the market now, and so many different choices, it's really hard to pick out what do I even get first. A lot of newbies out there like, what do I even buy, because there's so many things. But what we want to offer as a brand is just bringing you the best quality possible, with those standards in mind, at an affordable rate, with also the cutest packaging possible. And I think Kayla has a coupon code if you want to try out the collection.
Yeah, so they kindly gave listeners a code. It's going to be welcome 15 to get 15% off of your first order. I will definitely put it in the show notes for everybody. You guys sent me some tweezers. They're in my mailbox. I was like gonna have them so I could have them on the video, but I haven't done I want to do an opening, video, and I didn't have time, but I'm super excited because I'm going into the salon today, so I'm going to try them all out and I can't wait. What is your guys' personal favorite tweezer in the new collection right now?
I think my favorite one is Itsy Bitsy. It's similar to our old Twiggy one, but it's smaller. And I think Cheeky is pretty similar to Twiggy, but Itsy Bitsy is like just a little bit skinnier. Like it's just so skinny. So I actually like using it with pre-mates because it doesn't get in the way, and I just love it. It's so cool.
Yeah, Itsy Bitsy's boot is really thin, so like it allows you more control, I think. Whereas thicker boots, like Bootyful, here's Bootyful, which is more of like your standard boot. And that one, it can tend to cover up what you're working on. I mean, some people like to use Bootyful for just Russian .07s and stuff, but Itsy Bitsy is very versatile in that way because it also does well with like mega volume, like very, very well. I actually used that on my mom yesterday. I don't have it at my table. But for me, my favorite probably is Littlefoot. That's the one that was named after me. And that was the model that I was like, we have to have this. We have to have this one. Because it's like the perfect mega volume pickup tweezer and pinching tweezer. It's just amazing. It's basically like a 90-degree, super, super, super thin. Um, I don't even know what you would call it, but it's a very thin boot, and I can make a mega volume fan in 1 second. Like pick it up, pinch it, done. And it also can pick up light volume and mega volume off the strip with the max resistance as well.
I feel like Littlefoot, like I was struggling with at first because that you need so little tension that I would like squeeze it way too hard. So once Kayla showed me how to fan with it, though, I was like, damn, this one is good. But that's like another little thing about our new tweezers is people that are used to really squeezing, they're gonna have to kind of make that adjustment.
Like back off a little bit. Yeah. It's not a lot of pressure on your hands. Like that was the thing that I wanted to make sure we had too with the tweezers was like if we're going to have tweezers at all, you might as well have them like have so much ease of use. So these ones like again, this manufacturer and no I'm not going to share with anybody who it is. But it's like, the ease of use and how little pressure that you have to have in order for it to work. So if there's a tweezers that we're testing and it'll only work with like super super hard grip, we won't sell that at all. That's not our standard and we're not going to do that. We're only going to sell things that are going to be easy to use. So
Yeah, I'm so excited to try them today, and I just can't wait to open up that package. And I'm excited to see what else you guys. I mean, I feel like just these since you guys started working together, you can see the difference and what's been changing in the brand. At least I can because I pay attention to all those things. So it's really cool to see and see you guys join forces. And it's cool to see that you guys were on kind of two different styles of lashing and stuff, and that you're collaborating together now. And I'm just excited to see what the future holds for it. And you guys have a podcast now too, right? That you launched. Do you guys want to talk about that? Plug that real quick, and that way people can go and listen because I know you have a couple episodes out now.
yeah, so it's called Lash Duality, and we came up with that name because there is such a duality between us and coming from two different spaces and perspectives and coming together to align with our vision. And so, what we use the podcast for is to recap trends that are happening in the industry, talking about our different experiences, but also we didn't want it to be just like a general advice column, although we do give a lot of general advice, but we wanted to have like a little spin on it. So, sometimes we talk about controversial topics and we are very open about everything. And I know for me, it is like my platform of like venting a lot of times. So, so yeah, if you want to get into any of that, like we do have an episode called Ending the Pre-Made Debate Once and for All. And you need to listen to that if you listen to anything. But yeah, you can listen to it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And if you do go listen to it, let us know, because that's one of our favorite things that makes our day, when people, tag us when they're listening. So
That is awesome. I'm excited. I still feel that way after doing the podcast for years. Like anytime somebody tags that they're listening, I'm like, oh my gosh. But then you kind of get nervous too. I'm like, what did you think? I don't know. I'm just like, did I say something stupid that I didn't? Especially, it's kind of funny because now that I don't edit anymore, I don't always re listen to the whole episode before I publish it. Like, I've listened to a couple and she's done a good job. So I'm like, okay, the trust is there. But then I'm like, did I say something dumb that I need to be like, can you actually edit that last sentence out? Cut that out, please. Because then I'll listen to it. I'm like, oh, shit. Like, that was stupid.
I think that's why it takes Kayla 8 hours to edit it, because I constantly say stupid shit.
No, I think you're just really
And after
meticulous and detailed with it, which is good, right? But man, it's a lot of hard work. But I'm excited that you guys started that. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, too. I know I've had you guys both on individually before, so it's really fun to chat with you.
actually, the first podcast I ever did was with you, and we were in person. And I was so scared. I don't think I ever listened to it because I was like, I don't even want to hear myself.
I remember that episode. I've listened to that episode with you, and yeah, I loved it because I was like, this is so insightful, and I didn't know any of this information. Like, it was great, so I enjoyed it.
Well, I'm going to do kind of the same thing at the Lash conference this year, where I'm going to have a little booth with just a podcast. So you guys will have to come do another one in person if you're going to be there.
Ooh, that'd be so fun. Yes.
That's
I
awesome.
love it.
So fun. So everybody can find you guys at lashreality.com, Lash Reality on Instagram. If you want to follow Kayla, she's at just Vod Lashes.
Mm-hmm.
And I will have all of your guys' links listed in the show notes too. And you guys will definitely want to give them a follow. And I'll have the discount code there so you can grab some of those tweezers, and definitely let them know how you like them too. Give the feedback, because I know everybody appreciates that. And I will definitely be letting you guys know and sharing on my stories as well today.
Yay. Can't wait.
Thanks for listening. Oh, and it's always an honor to be here. So thank you so much for thinking of us, Kayla.